Hello, everyone. Happy Monday. Welcome to Snap Take. This is Glazer of Snap Judgments, the official podcast of Marvel Snap Zone. We've got four awesome decks for you today. The fourth one is a secret. We've got Toby's Thanlactus. That's the one that's won 3 Infinity tickets already. We've got Ben's Blobnos. Ben is a Marvel Snap Zone regular, and he has got a 73 win rate with this deck, while Quinny has a bounce deck. It's not a Mr. Negative bounce deck. It is negative in another way that eats Thanos Blob alive. We're going to get started momentarily, but before we do, I'd like to ask you to sub, hit that like, hit that comment, ring that bell. Your sub means a lot to us. It helps us grow. We just hit 7,000. We're now going to push to 8,000 subs. So help us get there if you're willing. It's completely free to you. We bring you at least 3 new decks every single weekday. We do some of the biggest giveaways in Marvel Snap. And we have things like bundle guides, news, pro tips, everything you need to get better at Marvel Snap to make your journey more complete and more enjoyable. We do a full show every weekday and pretty much every Sunday, so please check it out. We'd appreciate the support. We also maintain a sheet that, oops, excuse me, wrong button. We also maintain a sheet that has every active giveaway on Marvel Snap. Thanks to our friend Banshee for keeping that sheet up to date, as I'm busy fairly often. But this sheet basically keeps every giveaway so that you can go check them out. They're all free to enter, and they get you good free Marvel Snap stuffs. So if you're interested in that, please check out the giveaway sheet. If it's not for you, hey, no problem. But we get no benefit out of it. It's just a nice thing we can give to the community to help you guys out. You can find some cool creators. It's in the description to the video. Next up, we begin with questions of the day. Then we have Toby's deck. You can find Toby right here. Toby is a Vietnamese player I do a lot of stuff with, so make sure you check out his content. Really cool person. We've got the last 6 variants I'm awaiting and the ones I really want for them. Then we've got Ben's deck from the Marvel Snap Zone Discord. Then we've got my take on Nerf requests. There have been a bunch of Nerf requests again lately, and we know we're getting an OTA Thursday, so this is what I think about the cards that people are requesting to Nerf. Then we've got Quinny Equinox's deck. Quinny is one of the 7 people who every time they release a deck, it's an auto video. Quinny is a brilliant, brilliant deck builder and phenomenal person. Hey, Quinny. And finally, we're ending with Den and I's secret sauce. Don't tell. Den totally already tweeted it. But this deck has been a monster in testing. I've been absolutely completely crushing with it. Den's been completely crushing with it, and you can too. We close as always with the shop. Our first question of the day is from Venom. Hey Venom, how you doing today? Venom wants to know if I think series drops are returning, and I do. I think that if the answer was just no, they would have said just no. I don't think they're going to make a big to do to disappoint the audience. That seems like a bad move, right? Like you don't be like, we'll tell you before the end of the year, and then when the time comes, be like, never mind, haha, gotcha, thanks for waiting. That seems like a bad call. What they are is concerning because we know Darkhawk has been data mined in the February spotlights, and he's an obvious card to drop. I think in order to return series drops, they have to do something to rework Series 3 acquisition, which is my real hope. I think that's more important than series drops, and I think that ends up fundamentally altering the game. And I believe we're going to get news in the next week. I'm hoping for Thursday, but I obviously don't know. But I do think series drops are returning just because, like, it's such poor marketing to be like, we'll tell you soon, and then have the answer be no. Chad Tompkins asks how I'd measure success as a casual player. So it depends how often you play. The first measure of success, I think, is improvement, right? If you're hitting 70 one season, try and hit 80 the next season. If you're hitting 80 one season, try and hit 90. And once you're hitting 90, you might as well push to infinite. If you're hitting 90, I promise you can get to infinite. I know that seems like there's a big difference. There is not, I promise. If you've got 90, you can hit infinite. And then once you're at infinite, start hitting ranks based on how much you play, right? Maybe you want to be in the top 5,000. Maybe you want to be in the top 1,000. And you start working toward that goal. And you should have increments, right? Like recognize if you're finishing 40,000, top 10,000 might be a big ask right away. So say, okay, can I get to top 30,000? Set achievable, smaller goals for yourself if that's the type of person you are. Personally, and I'm going to be completely honest, I know this seems weird because we just did that please subscribe thing. I'm not generally a super goal oriented person. Um so I subscribe to the idea that one of the main causes of human suffering is the idea of grasping or holding on to things that are not meant for us, and the idea of too much control. So my general goal is to play well and have fun. I don't really like I care if I win or lose. Like occasionally a loss will annoy me, but mostly I just want to play well and have fun. As long as I'm playing well and having fun, I try and improve, but improvement is mostly for myself. I think the best way to experience things is to measure yourself against yourself, not against others. Shakna wonders, I think I spelled that wrong this time, I'm really sorry, wonders if, given how they change cards, it'd be wise to just get what's fun right now. So I think that's complicated and really an interesting question, given that Blob's leaving Spotlights tomorrow. If I were a limited resource player, I would not buy Blob. And like that doesn't mean you were a limited resource player, you shouldn't buy Blob. What that means is you need to know what kind of player you are. I play a lot of Bounce. I play a lot of Annihilus. I play a lot of decks of that type. What I don't play a lot of are decks that run 6 drops, right? I play Eliath rarely. I play Blob rarely. Knowing that that's my play style, if I'm limited in resources, I should get stuff that's going to let me play things I want to. If that's not Blob, I shouldn't get him. Now, should you just get what's fun right now? I tend to vote sort of yes. I think you need a plan, especially as if you're early Series 3 and early in your acquisition journey, because otherwise it's really, really easy without that to sort of end up with no viable decks. So I think you want to maximize getting certain meta cards. Like, you're always going to need Jeff, you're always going to need Iron Lad, stuff like that. Evolutionary gives you a new deck that you might just really want to play. So it's possible a lot of these cards are nerfed over time. Only Evolutionary of those has ever been nerfed, but it's possible a lot of these cards are nerfed over time, right? So be it. Very, very rarely is something we spent money on nerfed out of existence. Mobius sort of was, but I think that's more of a meta thing than like a Mobius being terrible thing. What was really nerfed out of existence kind of was Galactus, but even then, like, it's in and out of the meta. They very rarely change something so that it's just not good anymore. Um, I think go with the plan and go for what you enjoy and what you will play instead of what's meta is really good advice. I think just go willy nilly. If it's good now, I'm just gonna grab it. Is a bit much. Like Elsa's the only thing I can really think of that was nerfed in anything like a timely manner. Everything else that's good that's been nerfed, generally speaking, takes like months. And even then, it's usually pretty damn good. So, given that's the case, I think with a plan, get what you like. Cool. If you'd like your question read out in tomorrow's video, leave one in the comments. Deck 1 is Toby's Galabnos. Get it? Galabnos? I like it. I like the name. That's my name. I picked it. Sorry, Toby. That's what your deck is called. All right. This one's really cool. You've got X23 and the Time Stone to try and cheat stuff out, and the best thing to cheat out on 6, if you can guarantee the one lane, is Galactus. Because after Galactus, either Blob or Eliath wins you the game. Simple, right? You can also do the simple, as always with Thanos nowadays, do the early Professor X scam play. You can just do the Professor X on turn 4, win, and then you play whatever Devil Dino or whatever on turn 5, where you kill a bunch of stuff with Killmonger and Carnage, and then on turn 6 you can go Blob and Death or Eliath and Death. Like, I don't know, that feels like it's probably pretty likely to win you the game of Marvel Snap, right? It also wins a lot of cubes because Death is huge. Death, don't forget, like, it's easy to forget because Blob is 30, that a 12 power Death wins a lot of games. All right, so Thanos, Galactus, and Blob are needed. You can try Psylocke for X23. It's worse. That's why X23 is here, but it's still pretty good. And you can try Null or Leader. Excuse me, that says for X23. You can try Null or Leader for Eliath. Null is a reasonable Eliath replacement here because when you blow up the board, there's a lot of dead stuff, and then Eliath is huge. It's the only card that on pure stats can ever really compete with Blob. Cool. You can also throw Leader in there such that if you have priority and they want to play their Blob, you play Leader. You get their Blob +2. Or if they have priority, you get their Blob stats, and then it eats the other deck, right? Like, then it eats your deck, and your Blob is always bigger in that case. Okay, so this won 3 Infinity tickets. I'm going to be honest, as I'm recording this, I have no idea what my lead deck is. I haven't made the thumbnail yet. We'll see. It seems likely to be this one because, I don't know, Galactus is pretty cool. So turn 1, draw X23. X23 goes up if you already have kill in hand for turn 3 or 4. Turn 2 is the same as turn 1. Turn 3, get an extra energy if you want to play Professor X or Dino early. If not, continue to do setup plays. Turn 4, Professor X, Double Dino, or you can go into your ramp. You can kill your X23 or play that Time Stone now, because that gives you the turn 6 Galactus or Blob or whatever you want to play. Turn 5, Devil Dino or Blob or Galactus. Devil Dino, Blob is perfectly fine on turn 5 here. And then, especially if you don't think they have Shang, although Shang and Shadow King are suddenly a lot more decks with Blob everywhere. And then turn 6, Blob or Eliath, particularly after Galactus. And if you can afford to play a free Death with those cards, that seems pretty good. I found playing this a little bit that Death was often my turn 5 play, and that I could just drop Death on turn 5 and then Blob or Eliath on turn 6 to lock up the game. That works. Quick look at variants. We've got some of my new variants here. We've got my new Hip Carnage and my new Hip Galactus. You love to see it. We've also got Hip Jeff, Hip Killmonger, and Hip Blob, so it's a 5-hip deck. A good start. I've got this lovely Death in Gold along with the lovely Thanos in Gold. They're friends. We've got the Peach Shang and Peach X23, two of my favorite variants in the game. Devil Dino is nice and cozy. It's a baby Professor X with his boyfriend Magneto. And that's all the variants in this deck. Big fan of the look of this deck, big fan of the playstyle. Way to go, Toby. Make sure, again, you check out his content. So I did the last day of Blob review yesterday by accident because apparently time has lost all meaning inside my head the week before Christmas. Teachers the week before Christmas, ask anyone you know. It's like, oh my god, are we like half checked out and like ready? So I'm really sorry, but check yesterday's video if you want a last day Blob review with all my advice on how to get that card or not get that card. Instead, we're going to look, I've got 6 cards I still need variants for, the variants I want to get. So this Echo is released. It was in my friend Kodo's shop today. I'm hoping that means it's doing a rotation in shops right now and I get it tomorrow. I will snap this up immediately. This is my favorite Echo in the game. I know the Phoenix ones look really cool, but I never read the comics where Echo was Phoenix, so those like don't do anything for me. I want like a classic Echo, and this is the best classic Echo. Um, I really, really, really would prefer the Peach Momoko Black Knight or the Hip Black Knight, but there's no release date for either, and I'm going to open for Celine anyway. So I figure if I'm opening for Celine and I have 22 caches, I'm just going to open for the Black Knight. This is the Spotlight one that's out next week. So I'm going to grab it when I'm in those spotlights. There is only 2 White Tiger variants in the game that you can get in the shop. This is one of them, so if it ever shows up, I will happily grab it. The other is the Pixel. I'm not spending on Pixels, even if it is my last variant. So I would really like this one. I also think it's gorgeous, but I would very much like this White Tiger. I need the hip stature. It was in my shop twice, once when it first released, and once right after the nerf, and I didn't buy it because of the nerf, and I've regretted it ever since. On Wednesday, I believe, Tuesday, Wednesday, time has lost all meaning as usual. This Polaris will be in the shop. It is a Rian Gonzalez one. Expect me to buy it immediately and then smile viciously. And I haven't seen this rescue in forever. I saw this rescue over the summer, and I was like, I should get it, I should get it, and then I didn't get it. When I see this rescue, it's mine, and then I will be done. Those are my last variants. Ooh. Next up, we have Ben's Blob build with a 73% win rate in about 80 games. This one is seeming more and more like it's going to be the lead deck. But again, can't decide. I really like today's decks, folks. So this one is doing the Okoye thing, which I usually don't love in Blob builds. But because those extra power, like if you play a bunch of extra cards with extra power, that gets split with Tribunal, I think it has more value here. Your basic idea here is to get Blob and copy with Taskmaster, or get Blob and then spread it with Tribunal. And if you can do that nice and early, thanks to like a wave or whatever, you have a super huge Blob, and if they can't answer it, you win the game of Snap. Yay! This one doesn't bother Professor X. It's instead just saying, stop me with my bajillion power. If you can get a Blob on 4, Taskmaster on 5, and a Tribunal on 6, unless they have Shang and Shadow King, you've basically won, right? And basically winning is pretty good for the game. You have backup plans, of course. You don't have to see Blob. You can do worse than an early Giganto Taskmaster. That's going to still win a lot of games of Snap. You can still put a lot of pressure on with the stones and all the other stuff you can do. So you're... Oh, what the hell? I didn't do replacements for this one. I thought I did. All right, cool. So I did do the turn by turn. Let's talk replacements. The reason I didn't do replacements is because really sorry, there aren't any, and I thought that, and then I just didn't actually write it. So you need Blob because this is built around Blob. You need Tribunal because it's built around Tribunal. You need Thanos because it's a Thanos deck, right? Everything else is Series 3 or lower. We don't do replacements. All right, 73% after 65, excuse me, not 80. Although I played it to whatever. Okay, so turn 1, draw. Turn 2, Okoye if you have it. If not, draw more. Turn 3, wave, or, you heard me, draw more. If you waved, Blob. If not, play an energy card. Now you're playing your Time Stone or your Psylocke. Turn 5, if you blobbed already, Taskmaster. If not, then drop Blob. Turn 6, Tribunal, or the biggest thing you can. Smile as your opponent is sad and you get extra cubes. Quick variant look, we have the Psylocke. I would really like the hip Psylocke. It's literally never been in my shop. I'm perfectly fine with the peach one for the time being. This is unfortunately a one peach deck. I decided to throw in our uh handle blob, mustache blob from the spotlight. It's so cool. Um we've got 3 hips, 4 hips in this deck, which is a nice number. I've got the hip Iron Man, but I showed that in another deck already, so whatever. Uh I like Hip Giganto a lot. We've got Luchador Taskmaster. Sick of talking about the stupid Nazi, and this Okoye came in the Black Panther season. I also have Hip Tribunal, by the way, but this was supposed to be in yesterday's video with that other deck that ran Tribunal and Iron Man, so I used a different variant for each of them so it didn't get like repetitive. Oh, visual differences, top quality. All right, so people are calling for nerfs again in Marvel Snap in the community. You're seeing a lot of people calling for various nerfs, and some of the cards that they're calling for nerfs are the lockdown cards. People are saying Professor X needs to be nerfed. So I think Professor X is only problematic when one card can win the game outside of Professor X. And I think we have 2 cards that are kind of like pushing Professor X a little bit too much. And that would be Ms. Marvel, Alioth, Blob. So I guess technically 3. But Alioth and Blob don't really go in the same deck and are sort of different in this case. I don't think Professor X is a problem, and I'd hate to see him like super duper nerfed. I wouldn't mind a small change. I wouldn't mind him going down to something like 2 power. We'll see. That's if anything more than that is going to be an OTA change. Sorry, a patch change, and I don't want that. I think eventually he's gonna be changed. I'm just gonna be honest. I don't think it's gonna come anytime soon. So you should probably get used to seeing him. Um, I think with him and Spider Man there was a problem, but I think Professor X is like an inherently fair card, and I'm okay with that. People are saying Blob should be nerfed. Blob's going to be nerfed. Blob's going to go to 6-2 or 6-3. Telling you right now, Blob's going to go to 6-2 or 6-3 because the way they tend to nerf this type of card is not to, damn it, is not to make it significantly worse, but to instead lower its floor so that like if you run Maximus against Blob, now that Blob is even less power, right? So I would expect Blob to go down to about a 6-2 or something of the like instead of like a major rework, and I don't think that's coming anytime soon. A week after it was released, 2 weeks after it was released, by the time a week and a half after it's released by the time the OTA comes. But I wouldn't be surprised to see that be one of the January OTAs eventually. People want Werewolf nerfed. Werewolf is like a 317 fairly often, which is game winning, but Werewolf is like the last mid range card that's really good, right? They nerfed Darkhawk with Blob. Not unplayable, but they nerfed Darkhawk with Blob. They basically nerfed Kitty and Bounce out of existence. Like, if you want to play a good mid range deck, what are you left with at this point in the game? I mean, you can play like Stature and Black Bolt, but that's like significantly less power. The move package is not enough to compete with things like Blob. So you need a card like Werewolf. You need a really powerful mid range card for mid range good stuff decks, stuff like Bounce, for them to be competitive. So I think they should leave Werewolf alone. Are they going to change it? Yeah. My working assumption is Werewolf's change will be this patch and it's going to be to a 3-1. This way, it has to trigger once to get back up to its normal stats, and again, they're going to lower the floor of that card while keeping the ceiling super duper high. Finally, Ms. Marvel needs a nerf. Ms. Marvel, I don't like the 4-4-4. I think like a 5 with a 4-4 on each side, or 4 body with a 5 on each side, or even a 3 with 5 on each side is probably fine. I want it to maintain a decent amount of power when it doesn't work in ideal situations, which is why I think that changing the power of one of either the body or the ability is better. So that's my hope for that card. I would not be shocked to see Werewolf and Ms. Marvel hit. I don't think Ms. Marvel is going to be hit after they touched Elsa twice within 2 months. I think they're going to want to show that they can leave a powerful season pass alone. I fully expect Loki to finally get hit and sort of like punt it out of the meta for a little while. But I mostly expect of these cards Werewolf to be hit and the others to not really. I wouldn't be shocked to see a few around lockdown cards hit. Although I don't even know what that would be, right? Like the problem is how do you get rid of Professor X and Blob? Like what other cards? You can't nerf Thanos again, right? And like all those other cards are just generally good. So we'll see. I don't expect lockdown to really be hit. I think it'll be hit around the next patch, around early January, when they can do something bigger for it. I expect Werewolf to be hit, and I would be mildly surprised if Miss Marvel was hit, though I do agree she should be. Well, what are your thoughts about these nerfs? Please don't just yell broken. Have like a real dialogue. Let's have a conversation about like what makes these cards powerful, what's reasonable to adjust them, and how that affects the meta overall, what the chain reactions of these are. I guess if you nerf Miss Marvel fairly hard, you hit lockdown. But that doesn't hit Thanos, A, and B, like, I don't know, it's a shame for Ms. Marvel to die for um like Ms. Marvel can go, right? Like as long as she's not completely redesigned, she's just going to be really good in that deck. And I don't think that that's worthwhile. All right. This is Quinny's Nega Bounce. Quinny decided to beat Thanos basically always with this list. And the way this does that is it runs Hazmat over frickin' Shadow King, which broke my brain. Right? So basically you can win a Professor X lane from outside, right? If you play Hazmat twice, all those stones end up going down. If you only have one decent sized card there, you probably win. Their stones end up negative power. It's a really good way to win that lane because the Thanos decks aren't running Ms. Marvel for the most part. You can also, with this card, make all those stones really negative, cost them priority, and mess them up. You could bring your Sentry below Shang-Chi range. You can generally mess their stuff up while keeping your stuff out of play by bouncing it so that you still have power. You can also make your cards like Forge, Spider-Ham, and Black Widow 0 or less very easily for your Annihilus play, which is completely frickin' backbreaking. It's really good clog, and that's really good against both Thanos and Loki. This needs Annie and Werewolf, but Nico can happily be Iceman or Korg. So this is the I'm sick of Thanos and just gonna beat the crap out of it deck. So turn 1, Hood, Ham, or Forge. Turn 2, you go with Widow or Hazmat. If you don't have Prio against Thanos, you play Hazmat. If you have Prio, please do not play Hazmat. Turn 3, Werewolf over Beast, although if you're worried about a Professor X, it's fairly often that you Beast and then you skip Werewolf and you play Werewolf just on 4 with the 0 cost cards you just got back. Turn 4, some cards and Beast or Falcon. Sometimes those cards are going to include, that will be Sentry. Look at where they're setting up, right? Like if they're pretty clearly not going for that Professor X on the right lane, then Sentry is great. Turn 5, Annihilus if Sentry. If not, Rebeast the cards. And turn 6 is go wide and shine if needed. Although if you Hazmat it a couple times and have a bunch of negative cards, turn 6 can be like a Demon and Annihilus. Cool. Any of these wins. Turn 5, as if you've managed to get Hazmat down twice, as Annihilus is with Hood out, is fantastic. You can put like 4 junk cards with negative strength or 0 strength on this side of the board, and they're just not going to have space to do as much to beat you. That is how you play this sweet deck. Quinny's a genius, y'all. Just in case anyone didn't realize that, Quinny's freaking phenomenal at this game. All right, variant time. This is the only Sentry I have until I get the Christmas one in a few days. I decided not to go super hip with this deck. You'll see why. This is just a Hip Annihilus and Hip Ham because those are the two I have. I got the really, really gorgeous. A lot of people don't like this, and I don't get why. Hellfire Gala Forge. Oh, we also have the Hip Widow, excuse me. We have our new Hazmat that we pulled in randomly a few days ago. I've got this Art Adam Shang-Chi, which I have gold. I decided to go with Upside Down Chili Beast. The only werewolf I have now. The hip one will come eventually, and I will get it. and then Noir Hood and Steampunk Falcon. Oh, and Midnight Suns Nico. That is the variants for this one. Ready for the secret deck? This is the secret deck. Den tweeted it again. If you follow Den on Twitter, it's not that big of a secret. If you don't follow Den on Twitter, you need to play this. This is sick. Den has Rock Slide over Shang-Chi. I'm perfectly happy for this to be either one. Um, Rock Slide lets you have a super huge Darkhawk. Leech basically says, I win. Right? Leech is an I win button. You screw up their draws, you mess up their hand, and then you leech them, and you enjoy yourself. Like, they just don't have cards. They can't do anything. If you can manage to get that leech out early through whatever location or whatever other nonsense, Black Widow on 5 basically guarantees that like their whole hand is leeched and there's nothing they can do about it. It's sick. It's so strong. Darkhawk here becomes huge. You move around Werewolf just like always. You drop Shadow King and Shang to ruin their big stuff, and you have a great time. Darkhawk does not need to be bigger than 8 to 10 for this deck to work, although it's super easy to get double Korg in this deck. So I think Darkhawk is fine as Rock Slide. Yeah. Oh yeah. No, that's not true. So I think Darkhawk here would be fine as Rock Slide. If you didn't want to run Darkhawk, I think you'd be perfectly fine running Rock Slide and not running Darkhawk, and just saying you don't get draws. You draw rocks and then I leech your hand is a super powerful thing to do. You need Werewolf, but Nico can be Forge just fine. In fact, I greatly miss Forge in this deck. I don't think I miss it enough not to run Spider Ham because I'm trying to ruin their lives, right? But I do miss Forge. You really, 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 by the way, want to bounce Hood twice. You want to get 2 demons out of this deck. You can deal with 1 Hood on the board if you must, but you would rather not. Okay. So, the Ika deck from yesterday. I watched our friend Devilish Plays play it on Twitter all day. Sorry, on Twitter, on Twitch all day. Sunday, yesterday. And as I'm watching, I'm going, why isn't this a bounce deck? Bounce is like a stronger shell traditionally than, or bounce is a stronger shell right now than Darkhawk good stuff, at least in my experience. There is a version someone hit Infinite with in my comments yesterday that runs the Annihilus stuff that like KM is promoting. But I'm just sitting there going like, oh, like Leech should just be in bounce. We used to fit Iron Man just fine. Why not just run Leech? I can junk up their hand. I can completely trap them. And I can win with Leech. They're gonna have no choice but to run. So I also go, okay. So like if it goes there, why doesn't it also go in Thanos, right? Because Thanos wants to win with Blob on the last turn of the game. Well, if they're Leech, that Blob is terrible, that Alioth is terrible, and I should be able to beat whatever the hell else they're doing. Unless they get really lucky with their top deck, Leech beats Thanos in Thanos. It's a mirror killer. So I message Den and I just go, Leech meta. And 2 seconds later he goes, oh my god, bounce. I'm like, yeah. So he built the bounce deck, I built the bounce deck. We're 1 card apart. That card, just for the record, is Shang-Chi versus Rock Slide. Straight up cold. I went and pulled the old, this is called Lambie Fam Leech. I don't know if you know him, but Tela Dadman is the person who invented this bounce shell. Everyone thought bounce was bad. This member of Lambie's Discord created this deck, which is great, and like it's been adapted to run Annihilus, it's been adapted to do a million things, but like he does not get nearly enough credit, so that's why it's called Lambie Fam Leech. So I play it. I went 8-2 immediately, and then I played a bunch more on my phone, so I don't have stats. I'm really sorry, but I went 8-2 immediately, and the cube rate suggested that this deck was going to be a problem. Den played it and went, "Oh, this deck is a problem too." So you should play this deck. Eventually, it's going to have the stats. I think this is a meta deck. Bluntly, I think this deck will be a part of the larger Marvel Snap meta and is worth knowing, playing, having, using. Cool. All right, let's go back to turn by turn. So turn 1 is Korg or Hood. Those are both better than Ham. Ham is better after a turn or 2 because you don't want to hit something too cheap. Turn 2, Widow on the same lane as your Korg, Hood, or Ham, whatever, especially if Beast is in hand. Turn 3, Werewolf over Beast, again, with the exception of if you're playing you're expecting a Professor X, and then you go Beast first because you can go, if you can pick that Professor X lane, right, it's possible to use your zeros and your demon to win that lane while playing Werewolf again. Turn 4, 1 and Beast or 1s and Falcon. If Korg and Widow are played, Darkhawk is fine. If you don't have a couple Korgs or Widow, you can skip Darkhawk. Turn 5, Leech or Darkhawk and 1 backup. And turn 6, drop everything you can. I've spent a decent amount of time winning turn 6s by choosing Shang-Chi and just playing Shang-Chi and Shadow King and being like, there's some, if I miss with one of the two, as long as I play the right one second, the one I'm less sure about, my werewolf will win that lane if I do mess up, and that's pretty damn powerful. Quick look at variants. We've got our Hip Leech here, our Hip Cork, our Hip Ham, that's 3, Hip Beast, Hip Falcon, 5. I've got a Hip Widow, but I decided not to run it here, so there could be 6. Love to see it. Best Shadow King in the game, Noir Hood still, only Werewolf still. Still love this Darkhawk. And the reason I ran the Momoko Black Widow is because I have the Momoko Shang here, and I thought the Momoko should be friends. Oh. All right, shop of the day. I was super happy to see my shop today. I had 3 hips. I got the Panther hip. I got that was supposed to be the hip. I I'm telling you, man. Week before Christmas break, I'm a teacher. You're gonna get these little things this week. That's supposed to be the Panther I was running before this. It's supposed to be the Phoenix Force Panther because I've got the Jacinto Apocalypse and then the Phoenix Force Panther, both of which are from like big ass bundles, and I'm replacing both with hips. Although I really like the Jacinto, so like maybe I'm not totally replacing it. I can't get the stupid Panther from the Phoenix Force Gold, so like too damn bad. That one's gone. I'm just playing the Hip Panther. Also, I kind of like the Hip Panther a little better. I really like the design. And then I had the Wasp from the steampunk when we had the variant rush, like the last variant rush we ever had. But the hip one's better, and I got the hip. So I'm very, very happy with today's variants, and I'm very happy that any of you watched this whole video. Thank you so much for hanging with me today. I'll see you tomorrow for another Snap Take. Tomorrow is our look at Havoc, and I got some spicy, spicy brews. See you then. Peace.